Hi, my name is Dr. Don Wicker, and today we're going to continue our lecture series number 2, but we're looking at business ethics. Corporate and social responsibility in business ethics. What exactly does that mean? Stakeholders. Define ethical issues in business. Stakeholders are those who have a stake or a claim to the business, and they're the people who basically define ethics. And think about it. You have customers, you have employees, you have government agencies, you have investors, suppliers, communities are even involved in defining ethics in business. Types of stakeholders. When we're talking about stakeholders, as I just mentioned, I mentioned employees and customers. What are these stakeholders exactly? Well, think about this. We have primary stakeholders and we have secondary stakeholders. A few of the primary stakeholders include, of course, employees, customers, investors. But what are these secondary stakeholders? Who are these secondary stakeholders? Well, they're not typically engaged in the transactions of a company. They're people like media, trade associations, and special interest groups. Those are what we call secondary stakeholders in this topic of business ethics. You know, we've been talking a lot about stakeholders, and think about this. Stakeholder orientation is the degree to which a firm understands and addresses stakeholder demands. And you start thinking about that. What does that mean? Well, it involves 3 activities. 1, generation of data. 2, distribution of information. And 3, the responsiveness at every level in the stakeholder organization. Philanthropy, giving back to society. That's just one of the things that corporations should do. And of course, ethical, following standards of acceptable behavior as judged by stakeholders. Legal. That legal is very important, abiding by all laws and government regulations. And we know what happens when companies do not abide by government regulations. And of course, economic, maximizing stakeholder wealth and or value. Corporate citizenship. The 4 interrelated dimensions of corporate citizenship: strong, sustained economic performance, rigorous compliance, ethical actions beyond what is required, and of course, voluntary contributions. Those are all comprised of corporate citizenship, which is very important in business ethics. Corporate citizenship. How does a firm act on its commitment to the corporate citizenship philosophy? Well, think about this. Does it measure the extent to which it follows through by implementing initiatives? Can we say that about all corporations? Do they measure up? Corporate governance issues. As you can see right here, some of the corporate governance issues are stakeholder rights, risk management, executive compensation, which is real important. If we think about what happened with Enron, executive compensation is a corporate governance issue. Board of directors compensation, and CEO selection and termination decisions. These are all just a few corporate governance issues. As you can see, there's more listed here. Next, corporate governance. Fiduciary responsibilities. What are fiduciary responsibilities? Well, a person is placed in positions of trust who use due care and loyalty in acting on the behalf of the best interests of the organization. So that means if you work for a company and you're a corporate officer, you have a fiduciary responsibility. Of course, both directors and officers of corporations are fiduciaries for stockholders. Both directors and officers of corporations are fiduciaries for shareholders. Issues related to corporate boards and directors, of course, accountability, transparency, and independence. And at this point in time, we always hear our President, Obama, talking about transparency. So as you can see, we want transparency in our companies. Role of board of directors. What exactly are we talking about when we say board of directors? Well, me having experience being on the board of directors for a nonprofit organization, I can tell you our ultimate goal was to make that company successful. And of course, as a board of directors member, you're responsible for the failure of a company too. You want to increase the demands for accountability and transparency. And of course, you're selected for a board of directors position because of your expertise and your competence in a specific area. And issues of executive compensation are also discussed in the board of directors meetings. Issues of executive compensation. Think about it. You're on a board of directors and you're responsible for evaluating the extent to which executive compensation is linked to performance. It must be linked. The company does well, the executive should be paid well, and that is the responsibility of the board of directors. Also think about the performance linked compensation to lead to short-term focus at the expense of long-term growth. You have to be aware that that's a possibility also. You have an executive who will have an excellent compensation package only for short-term growth. As a board of directors member, you're looking at longevity. You're looking at longevity and long-term growth. That is your key responsibility. And that's our conclusion regarding business ethics and the subject of corporate and social responsibility. We want to thank you for tuning in, and we look forward to talking to you again in lecture series number 3.